Pentacle, chapter 16, Ten of Pentacles. Kain was suddenly tall, although he appeared taller when standing next to the petite Oberon, who was a head shorter. I'm going to start dinner, and what are you in the mood for? Beef, lamb, chicken, fish, said Kain, bringing out the meats. And he cooks, said Veronica, rubbing her chin. And who taught you how to cook? My grandma. I was raised by my grandparents, said Kain. And what about your parents? Asked Veronica. Kain was a teenage pregnancy, explained Oberon, and the old gents did all of the heavy lifting. Veronica continued with interrogation while Kain cooked, and she asked about all of the basic facts about his life, as well as the career and level of education. Are you really a cop? Asked Veronica. Yes, don't I look the part? Asked Kain, brandishing his revolver, and he twirled in the same fashion as cowboys in the old movies he used to watch with his grandpa. That's a neat trick. So you solve cases, arrest criminals, give parking tickets, asked Veronica, and she only knew from popular media what cops was supposedly did. I am not a detective yet, so I don't solve cases, and my role is to drive around the neighborhood until a crime happens. And most of the time I am ticketing speeding or drunken drivers, said Kain, downplaying his responsibilities. Come on, Kain, that isn't all you do, said Oberon, coming over to stand beside Kain, and he placed his arm around Kain's waist before adding, Kain here is a forensic artist. Neat, and what does that mean? Asked Veronica with an over-enthusiastic smile. And she leaned forward on her seat to appear more interested. Do you know those criminals drawings? Do you know those drawings that they show on the news? Those drawings are the description of the criminals. I made those drawings, said Kain before seasoning the chicken. And Veronica liked chickens, and he was cooking 2 meals, chicken for Veronica and rice for Oberon. So if I describe someone, can you draw him? Asked Veronica. I can try, but I didn't bring paper or pencil. Well, you're in luck, because I brought some, said Veronica, bringing out a sketch pad and pencil. Oberon, can you massage the chicken for me while I draw? Asked Kain. Can I what? Asked Oberon, confused. While the chicken is in the spices, you're supposed to massage the meat, or so my grandma claims, said Kain, washing his hands. Oberon took over the massaging of the chicken breast, and although he felt that this was pointless, Kain drew the person that Veronica described, and she was satisfied with the drawing, so she decided to keep it. Hey, can you draw the person who followed you to my house? Asked Oberon, remembering that creep. Why? Asked Kain. Well, it isn't the first time that a widow has become obsessed with you, said Oberon. Yes, I better draw that stranger before I forget what he looks like, said Kain, sketching the stranger. He held up the drawing of a tall 40-something man, and his face had many lines of suffering, especially around his eyes and forehead. The mouth had thin lips, and the eyes looked like they were always sizing you up, and the head was starting to bald, and he had coloring pencils, he would have rendered the stranger's ashen red hair and the light brown eyes, and the color completely left Oberon's face when he saw the drawing of that man. Veronica casually said, That's our dad. Did he also come to meet me? Asked Kain, smiling sadly, and he added, Well, tell him not to be shy, and there's plenty of Joseph Merrick to go around. Who is Joseph? Is he another one of your husbands? Asked Veronica thoughtlessly. No, Kain is the only one, explained Oberon, and he reads and quotes books sometimes. You know, Joseph Merrick is the Elephant Man from like the book and the depressing movie. Kain went outside the apartment and he looked with his eye for the stranger, and smiling warmly he said, Hey, Oberon's dad, there's no need to be shy, come inside. And Oberon's father flinched when he realized that he had been spoken to, and he really didn't want to have dinner with his estranged son. However, he had come to keep an eye on Veronica, and he didn't like the look of the neighborhood. Dad, please, begged Veronica, coming outside. And Oberon froze on the spot when his father entered with him, and he had not spoken to his father since the day he had been thrown out of the house. And Veronica had tried to mediate, and she had told Oberon that his father would allow him to return home if he explained this new face of him. And Oberon said he would only return if his father got on his knees and apologized. And since that never happened, Oberon never returned home, and Kain didn't know this. Oberon never talked about his past. Francis sat down on the couch, and then he said, Don't you have a real dinner table? Oberon doesn't normally have guests, said Kain apologetically. And if we eat, it is usually at my house. And do you live by yourself or with your parents? Asked Francis, and he asked the same questions as Veronica. Once again, Kain patiently answered the same questions while he made dinner. And he served the food first, and he made the first plate for Oberon, and since he looked pouty, and he served everyone else before getting his own plate. Let us say grace, said Veronica, stretching her hands, and Oberon looked at the roof in search of a god that he thought had abandoned him. And his father stretched his hand towards it, and Oberon took it with that much enthusiasm. It was just as coarse and harsh as he remembered it, and as a child he never liked to sit beside his father because the man squeezed his hand too hard doing prayer. This time his father's hand didn't squeeze at all. Kain said grace since nobody was speaking, and at the end of the prayer Veronica said, "That was a very lovely prayer, and do you go to church?" "Not really. When my grandparents married, my grandma made Grandpa promise that they would never step foot inside a church ever again," said Kain, reminiscing. "So you don't go to church because of your grandmas?" asked Veronica. "Yes, too many bad memories. And Grandma was raised in a Catholic orphanage, and most of her early life was spent praying or getting beaten by nuns for accidentally sneezing during Mass," explained Kain. "At the age of 14, my grandma got a job as a waitress, so she was finally a master of her own destiny. Our congregation is a lot more merciful and less corrupt than the Catholic Church," said Veronica, trying to convert Kain. "I am happy where I am, and I was even baptized, and just because my grandma is at war with priests and nuns, it doesn't mean that she stopped being a Catholic," said Kain. "So you're a Catholic then?" asked Francis. "I am complicated. My grandpa started as Jewish, but when his parents divorced, his mom remarried, and he became an Anabaptist. He switched to Catholicism since he wanted to marry my grandma in a church, and when he came back from the war, he grew fond of Buddhism, and he tried that religion for a spell, but that didn't bring him peace, and he switched to Hinduism, and by the time he died, he believed in everything and nothing," explained Kain. "And what does your grandpa have to do with you?" asked Veronica. "Well, Grandpa's the one who spent the most time with me, therefore it is only natural that I take his opinions about religion very seriously," said Kain, smiling sadly. "Does he know about you? You're my brother?" asked Veronica. His grandpa's dead, his Oberon. Or when you're paying attention. "Settle down," ordered Francis. Settle down. You lost the right to scold me the day you threw me out of the house," barked Oberon, punching the table in a display of infantile fury. And he saw from the corner of his eye Crane growing silent, and the conversation immediately died with this outburst. And Oberon didn't eat anything, and he just simply moved the rice about while ripping his ribs to shreds with a fork and knife. And Kain sighed wearily before putting the pie his grandma had baked in the refrigerator. "And thank you for the lovely meal," said Veronica, breaking the silence. "I can pack the leftovers if you like," said Kain, to be polite. "Leave them," said Veronica, "and by the looks of the fridge, Oberon needs the food more than I do." "I don't need the food," whined Oberon. "I just never learned how to cook." Francis left the table, and he started making his way towards the door, and he sighed with frustration when Veronica went to the kitchen to help Kain with the dishes. "I am sorry you had to see this," said Veronica apologetically. "There's no need for you to apologize. And did Francis really throw Oberon out of the house?" asked Kain. "And why didn't you ask my brother?" asked Veronica. "He looks mad, and if he didn't want to tell me, he must have his reasons. And we're entitled to our own little secrets," said Kain, being evasive. "Thank you, Kain, for respecting my privacy," barked Oberon moodily. And he hadn't moved from his spot, and he was still sitting at the folded-up table, and based on how he was moving his left leg, he was nervous or angry. And Kain dried his hands, and he embraced Oberon's head before kissing him on the cheek, and Oberon closed his eyes to focus on the sensation. And Francis observed with curiosity this embrace, and there wasn't anything lustful about that embrace. Oberon sighed wearily, and with his anger subsiding, his hunger returned, and Kain said, "Grandma baked a pie. Do you want some?" "Yes," said Francis, returning to the table, and he wasn't about to let Oberon ruin his appetite. Kain sliced a piece of the pie for everyone, and for himself he sliced a thin piece, and he was feeling tense and nauseous, and the pecan pie succeeded in bettering everyone's mood. Although Veronica didn't bother to attend our conversation again, and her impression of Kain was that he was calm, level-headed, and sometimes sweet, and he was also a handsome devil. And with the dessert concluded, there was no other reason for Veronica and Frances to linger there, and Veronica shook hands with Kain and her brother before departing with her father. And as soon as they left, Oberon sighed deeply with relief. Finally, and I thought they were never going to leave, barked Oberon, pacing about the living room before falling on the couch. Kain didn't know what to say, so he kept quiet and he picked out the dirty dishes, and Oberon giggled coquettishly before opening the door to the bedroom. And Kain gasped when Oberon picked him up before being flung into the bed. And Oberon undressed quickly before pouncing on Kain. Wait, stop, said Kain, pushing Oberon back. Oh, please, Kain, I had a really bad day, and I truly need this, said Oberon, asserting more of his dominance. And his dexterous fingers ripped Kain's shirt up before removing the belt in one fell swoop. And when Oberon's hands touched the most sensitive part of his flesh, Kain wrestled with Oberon until he locked him into a key. And Oberon laughed at first, thinking that Kain wanted to be dominant, and when nothing happened, he felt equally frustrated and angry. Oh God, you're just the absolute worst, Kain, snapped Oberon, struggling to break free. When I tell you to stop, I'm not ready yet, said Kain before releasing Oberon. You know what I think, Kain? I think you are never going to be ready because you're not physically attracted to men, barked Oberon, folding his arms. I'm sorry, said Kain, lowering his eyes. Don't apologize. And why don't you like me? Barked Oberon, biting his lower lip. But I love you, said Kain as his eyes watered. And just get the fuck out of my apartment and take this stupid ring with you, said Oberon, flinging the ring at Kain. Kain picked up the ring before departing, and he didn't have any intention of fighting for his love, and he was already used to being rejected. It was nice while it lasted. As soon as Kain left, Oberon caught Arden. I'm back on the market. Come to my house now. And Arden drove there quickly, thinking that Kain had been the one to break up with Oberon, and the moment that he walked to the door, a physically starved beast pounced him, and both rolled around the hay for hours, and once he was satisfied, Oberon immediately regretted what he did. So why did Kain break up with you? As Arden switched into gossip mode. He didn't break up with me. He didn't fuck me, so I told him to fuck off, said Oberon, fiddling with their cheeks nervously. And when I say it out loud, it sounds terrible, doesn't it? Is your conscience bugging you? Asked Arden. A little, said Oberon, shrinking into his frame. A pity it should bother you a lot, said Arden, leaving the bed. And Arden got dressed quickly and needed to return home before sunrise, and his parents would get sad if he wasn't there to eat breakfast with them. What do I do? Asked Oberon. Why are you asking me for advice? Kain is your boyfriend, is he not? And you know now what? And you should know now what to do to make him forgive you for your many, many things, said Arden. You won't tell him what we did, will you? Asked Oberon. If I did, he wouldn't believe me, would he? Mused Arden. Yes, he would. He has been cheated on by every person he has ever dated, said Oberon, feeling ashamed. So why break tradition then? Well, as much as I would like to stay and gossip, I have places to be. Goodbye, said Oberon. Arden stopped a moment, and he noticed a jacket that was too big for Oberon. If you're looking for an excuse to go see Kain, here it is. The poor fool left his jacket. Return it to him, and while you're at it, beg for forgiveness. Oberon was left alone with the jacket, and he caressed it lovingly, and it still smelled like Kain, and inside the inner pocket he found sunglasses. And Kain had suddenly looked cool wearing them, and in the front pocket he found a folded printed paper with information about a reservation. Kain had apparently booked a little vacation for himself and Oberon. Alright, so that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye. God bless.